Do you know that some of your favorite rock stars didn't die natural deaths? They were murdered in cold blood. Some were stabbed, others were poisoned, and some others were even shot on stage in front of thousands while their killers walked free. Here are 10 talented rock stars whose deaths were unfortunate murders. Dimebag Darrell. On December 8, 2004, fans gathered at the Alrosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio, expecting nothing more than a night of raw, unfiltered metal. Dimebag Darrell, guitarist, icon, and co-founder of Pantera, had just taken the stage with his new band, Damageplan. Seconds into their opening song, a man stormed onto the stage and opened fire. He released 4 shots and all of them aimed at Dimebag. He collapsed instantly, never knowing what hit him. His killer, 25-year-old Nathan Gale, was obsessed, delusional. He believed that Pantera had stolen his thoughts, and that Dimebag had to pay. But everyone wondered why there and why that night? It was the 24th anniversary of John Lennon's death, another musician gunned down by a fan. Was it a coincidence, or something darker? Police rushed in. Gale was still firing. In total, he killed 4 people and injured several others before a heroic officer shot him dead. Just imagine the chaos. Fans screaming. Musicians ducking for cover. A rock show turned war zone in under a minute. Dimebag's brother, Vinnie Paul, was behind the drum kit that night. He watched it all happen, helpless. How do you come back from something like that? Dimebag wasn't just a guitarist, he was a pioneer. A master of groove metal. His riffs changed the shape of heavy music forever. And in the blink of an eye, he was gone. What drives a person to take the life of someone they claim to admire? How does obsession turn into murder? The metal world still mourns Dimebag Darrell. And the stage where he died? It was never the same again. Secondly, we have Sam Cooke. He was called the King of Soul, but make no mistake, Sam Cooke was rock and roll. His voice could melt stone. His songs? They changed the game. A Change Is Gonna Come became an anthem for a generation aching for justice. But on the night of December 11, 1964, justice was nowhere to be found. Cooke was shot to death at a seedy motel in Los Angeles. The woman who pulled the trigger? The manager of the Hacienda Motel, a woman named Bertha Franklin. She claimed self-defense, said Cooke was violent, disoriented, and demanding to know where a young woman he brought with him had gone. The official story painted it as a justified killing. But from the very beginning, nothing about it felt right. Why was Sam Cooke, an international superstar, alone at a $3 a night motel in the middle of the night? Why did he have only one shoe and a sport coat on when his body was found? And perhaps the biggest question of all, why did that young woman, Elisa Boyer, vanish almost immediately after filing her statement? Sam Cooke's family and closest friends never believed the official story. Etta James, who viewed his body before burial, said his injuries didn't look like a single clean shot. She claimed he looked beaten, brutalized. To this day, no one really knows what happened that night. Some say it was a robbery gone wrong. Others believe it was a setup tied to Sam's rising power as a black entrepreneur in the music business. Could someone have wanted him silenced? Was it a random tragedy, or a murder orchestrated in the shadows? Sam Cooke was just 33 years old. His voice, immortal. His death? Still surrounded by questions. And those questions still echo louder than his final note. Bobby Fuller. Bobby Fuller was on the rise. In 1966, his hit, I Fought the Law, was tearing up the charts. The sound was raw, rebellious, a bridge between the clean-cut days of Buddy Holly and the snarling snarl of punk still to come. But just as fast as he rose, Bobby Fuller vanished. On July 18, 1966, his body was found slumped inside his mother's car, parked just outside his Hollywood apartment. His face was battered, his chest bruised, his skin burnt. The official ruling? Suicide. But almost no one believed it. The car's windows were rolled up. The heat inside? Blistering. And strangest of all, Bobby's lungs were filled with gasoline. As if he'd inhaled it, or been forced to. But who would want Bobby Fuller dead? Some point to the mafia's rumored grip on the music business at the time. Fuller had reportedly been resisting industry pressure, refusing to sign over control of his music. Others say jealousy brewed within his circle, that someone close didn't want to see him succeed. And then there's the theory no one can shake, that Bobby was murdered, his body staged, and the truth buried alongside him. There were no fingerprints on the gas can. No suicide note. No trace of drugs or alcohol in his system. And yet, the case was closed. He was just 23 years old. Do you really believe a young rock star, on the brink of fame, would end it all by crawling into a boiling car and breathing in gasoline? Or was Bobby Fuller's biggest fight, not against the law, but against someone much closer? Brian Harvey. On New Year's Day, 2006, Brian Harvey, a singer-songwriter known for his work in the indie rock duo House of Freaks, was at home with his wife, Catherine, and their two daughters, Stella and Ruby. They were preparing a family meal. Just another quiet morning in Richmond, Virginia. By the end of that day, they were all dead. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. It was a massacre. Two men, Ray Joseph Dandridge and Ricky Gray, broke into the Harvey home as part of what authorities would later call a killing spree. But this wasn't just a robbery. It was brutal, prolonged, personal. Brian, Catherine, Stella, and Ruby were bound, beaten, stabbed, and finally, their throats were slit. The killers set fire to the house before fleeing the scene. But the fire didn't take. The bodies were discovered, lying together in the basement. Can you even imagine it? The horror of it all, unfolding behind the closed doors of a quiet suburban home? Why the Harveys? Why this family? To this day, there's no clear answer. No personal motive. Brian wasn't a rock star caught in scandal or excess. He was a husband, a father, an artist, whose only crime was being home that morning. The killers were later captured and convicted. Ricky Gray was executed in 2017, but no punishment could ever make sense of what they did. What kind of darkness chooses a family at random and wipes them out so mercilessly? Brian Harvey's music was gentle, thoughtful, soulful. His final moments were the opposite. And sometimes, that contrast is what haunts us the most. Peter Tosh. Peter Tosh didn't just play music. He spoke it. His voice, raw and unapologetic, carried a message of resistance, revolution, and freedom. As one of the original members of the Wailers, he helped shape reggae into an international force. But in September 1987, Peter Tosh's own fight for survival would come to an end, violently, tragically, and far too soon. It started as a robbery. Tosh was at his home in Jamaica, a peaceful retreat where he often spent his time writing and reflecting. But that night, it wasn't peace he would find. A group of armed men barged into his house. They demanded money, drugs, anything they could get their hands on. But here's the thing, this wasn't a random robbery. The men knew him. They were familiar faces. One of them was even someone close to him, someone Peter had trusted. A man who had worked for him, been a part of his life. The killers, led by a man named Don Taylor, knew that Peter would fight back. He wasn't the type to go down without a struggle. And fight back he did, taking on the intruders with the fierce determination that defined his life. But the odds were stacked against him. Peter was shot in cold blood, his life snuffed out in his own home, in front of his friends and family. And when it was all over, the men had what they came for, and they vanished into the night. The police investigation was slow. The media was quick to point to the drug world, but many close to Peter insisted this wasn't just about money or substance, it was about betrayal, and it was about power. Peter had made enemies, not just among criminals, but among those who wanted to control his message. Why would someone so close to him, someone he trusted, turn on him in the most brutal way? Peter Tosh's death was not just the loss of an icon. It was the loss of someone who challenged us to think, to question, and to stand up for what was right. And while the killers were eventually caught, that deep, aching question still lingers. Was Peter's death really just about money, or was it something far darker? Something personal? We may never truly know. But one thing's for certain, the world lost a legend the moment he was gone. Jesse Belvin. Jesse Belvin was more than a rising star. He was a pioneer, a black man in the 1950s, breaking down barriers in the segregated world of music. His voice? Velvet. His songs? Soulful anthems that spoke of love, pain, and dreams. But on February 6, 1960, Jesse's story came to a shocking and violent end. He was returning from a concert in Little Rock, Arkansas, a groundbreaking, integrated event where black and white audiences had gathered together to hear his smooth ballads. It was a night of progress, of unity, at a time when such events were rare and often met with resistance. Jesse and his friends were driving back on a lonely stretch of road when tragedy struck. The car he was in crashed, killing him instantly. The other passengers were hurt, but Jesse, only 27, was gone. But here's where the mystery deepens. While the official story claimed the crash was accidental, many close to Jesse, his friends, his family, believed something far darker was at play. Why was the car's steering wheel bent in a way that suggested it had been tampered with? Why were there rumors of a suspicious black car following them before the crash? Some believe the crash wasn't an accident at all. It was a murder. Theories swirled that Jesse's death was linked to the success of the integrated concert he had just performed. At the time, tensions were high in the South. The fight for civil rights was gaining momentum, and there were those who wanted to keep things the way they were. Was his death retaliation for crossing that line, uniting black and white people through music? Some pointed to racist groups who may have seen Jesse's rise as a threat. Others claimed it was a setup by someone close to him. To this day, the questions remain unanswered. But one thing is clear: Jesse Belvin's talent was undeniable, and his life, his bright, shining life, was taken far too soon. Could a young man simply trying to share his gift with the world really have been silenced by hate? Or was there something more at play, something we may never fully understand? Jesse's voice is still with us in his music. His legacy? Unshakable. But the mystery of his death still echoes. Jacques Morali. Jacques Morali was the mastermind behind one of the most iconic musical acts of the late 70s, the Village People. He was the architect, the producer, the man who created a phenomenon that would transcend decades, bringing disco culture into the mainstream. His idea was simple but bold: take the stereotypes of American masculinity and turn them into a celebration of diversity and freedom. But in the world of music, where fame and fortune are often fleeting, Jacques Morali's story took a dark turn. On February 15, 1991, he was found dead in his apartment in Paris, his life cut short at just 44 years old. At first, the official cause of death was attributed to complications from AIDS. But was that the full truth? Or was there something more beneath the surface? The rumors surrounding Jacques Morali's death didn't just linger, they grew. Some claimed that Morali had been involved in some sort of sordid, dangerous lifestyle, suggesting that his passing wasn't just from natural causes or illness. Was it possible he had enemies? Was there a darker side to his life that no one had ever seen? Others wondered about the toll that the rise of the Village People had taken on Jacques. Did the pressure to keep the act fresh, to maintain the group's status as a cultural phenomenon, weigh him down? Or perhaps there was something even more personal at play, something the public never knew? And then there were those who felt that his death was simply another casualty of the AIDS epidemic, a disease that had claimed the lives of so many artists in the 80s and early 90s, particularly in the gay community. But the truth? That remained clouded in mystery, hidden away behind layers of speculation and unanswered questions. Jacques Morali's legacy isn't just in the music he created, but in the lives he touched. His vision for the Village People, a celebration of individuality, freedom, and expression, continues to resonate with people around the world. But his death, like so many in the entertainment industry, leaves us wondering, could we ever really know what happened? Or do some stories, no matter how compelling, remain forever shrouded in rumor and mystery? Finally, for this list, we have Rebop Kwaku, Ba. He was one of the most unique and talented percussionists of his time. His rhythms powered some of the most groundbreaking bands of the 70s, including Can and Traffic. He was the heartbeat of these experimental rock groups, his intricate drumming pushing the boundaries of sound and structure. But on November 2, 1983, his incredible journey was cut short. Rebop was found dead in his London apartment. The official cause of death? A heroin overdose. Yet, for those who knew him, it never seemed that simple. You see, Rebop wasn't the type to be lost in the excesses that often consumed the music world. He wasn't known for his reckless behavior. So why did his life end in such a tragic and mysterious way? Some close to him began to question whether the overdose was truly accidental, or whether it had something to do with the people around him. Could it have been sabotage? An unfortunate accident gone wrong? Or was it a situation of too much trust placed in the wrong hands? There were rumors, whispers that some of Rebop's associates might have been involved in his death, either knowingly or unknowingly. Some believed he'd been set up, given drugs by those who didn't have his best interests at heart. Others suggested that the pressures and stresses of his chaotic musical life had driven him into darker places, but who pushed him there? The uncertainty surrounding Rebop's death only made it more tragic. A man who had given so much to music, who had brought joy to millions with his rhythm, found alone in an apartment, his final moments unexplained, leaving behind a world of questions. In the years since, Rebop's contributions to music have only grown in stature. His genius as a percussionist, his ability to blend so many elements into a single, cohesive sound, was unparalleled. But the mystery of his death, it lingers. And the question remains, could someone have prevented it? Or was Rebop Kwakuba's fate sealed the moment he stepped into a world that was just a little too unpredictable, a little too dangerous? Which of these stories shocked you the most? Whose murder left you speechless? Let us know in the comments, because these stories need to be remembered, talked about, and shared. If you made it this far, you're clearly one of the real ones. Subscribe for more deep dives like this, because rock history has more dark corners than you ever imagined. Until the next video, keep sharing and helping spread the message.